Hello, everyone. We are back with the 2Have 2Role podcast. My name is Oliver. On this show, Robin and myself talk to Mike. Mike is a long-time LARPer, but now he is part of the NPC, that's non-player character crew at Empire LARP here in the UK. We discuss the NPC roles within the Empire LARP system, what it's like to be in the NPC role in Empire. This comes up a lot in the episode, but currently, as of May 2023, Empire NPC crew currently have spaces to fill. If you are interested, this will be a good episode for you. Or if you're just interested in NPCs and how they function within LARP games. If you're watching this on YouTube, give us a thumbs up. Click that subscribe if you are new so you know when a new episode is posted. If you're listening on a audio platform, then give us a 5-star review. That'll also help us out. And with that all out of the way, let's get into our conversation with Mike. We have Mike here with us. Mike, you are on the plot team. Is it called the plot team?
So I am a plot NPC.
A plot
is the team that I'm on, yeah.
Okay, plot NPC. So you are in charge of which part of the plot writing process?
So technically speaking, I'm an NPC. So basically, the plot team's divided into two groups. You've got the NPCs, who are the people who are actually going out playing all of the the foreigners, the barbarians, heralds, all of that kind of people who go out onto the field. There's kind of about 30, or usually kind of 20 at an event sort of thing at the moment. We are recruiting. If you want to sign up, I'm sure we'll get on to that.
Yeah.
And then there's also the plot writers, who are the people who are actually writing the plots and briefing the NPCs about what they're going to do. We're all backstage. There's quite a bit of overlap between the two. So I started as a plot NPC after I finished playing the game, but I've now moved on to taking on some plot writer duties, but not full time. And then plot writers will often NPC roles as well. And so yeah, that's kind of how we all work together backstage.
Yeah. So you mentioned recruiting. How did you find yourself in this position? How did you get into the crew side of LARP? Did you LARP before you started working with PD, or?
Yeah, I've been LARPing 16, 17 years at this point. So started at a local uni LARP, then got into Fest LARPs through Lorien Trust. And I played Maelstrom, so I played the PD system before Empire.
All right,
with a bunch of people. Actually, I played Odyssey as well, which started before Empire but carried on into after Empire. And basically, enjoyed Maelstrom, enjoyed that. So me and a bunch of other people were in a group at Maelstrom, and we all basically went into Empire being very hype, set up a new group from the start of the system. So I've been playing Empire since the very first event. I think I've only missed 2 events ever since the thing started. Played a couple of characters up front. Started quite relatively short-lived character first. Then I played a character in the league. He became general, and then as is classic as general, as classic for a general, I died on a skirmish.
Yep.
And at that point, basically, I'd kind of so this would have been 2017, so about 4 years into the game.
Yeah.
At that point, I'd kind of done everything I'd wanted to do as a player in the game, and so didn't really have an idea for the next character. And so inquired about crewing. Actually, nearly ended up on skirmish crew, but then sort of at the last second, someone else I knew on crew was like, "Do you fancy being a plot NPC because they're looking for people and think you'd enjoy it." And that's how I got my start. Went into crewing from there, and loved being NPC crew ever since. I'll be totally honest. I probably enjoy being a plot NPC more than I ever did playing the game.
Yeah.
It's a very different experience.
I bet.
But it's being a plot NPC Empire is some of the most fun I've ever had LARPing.
that sounds really cool. I mean, as a plot NPC, do you end up playing like similar roles, or do you have like a main sort of thing that you end up there as an NPC as, or do you not really know until you're actually there?
So it really depends. So I'm in a sort of slightly unique situation in that I've got a long-term Herald NPC called Revel, who deals with the challenge the Iron Duke stuff, kind of more of a magical civil servant than anything else. It's very much less about the plot and more about making sure a part of the game runs smoothly. And we can maybe talk about the barrier and stuff later. But yeah, in terms of what you end up doing at an event, so what will happen is the plot writers before every event they'll be writing a bunch of plots. Usually if there's some complicated ones, they'll try and get people to sign up for them beforehand, because most of the plots might have quite an involved brief, and so it's good if you can kind of read up on things beforehand. People can pick and choose what you want to do, but then often you'll also pick up some stuff at the event as well. And so basically, as the event goes on, we'll be looking for, all the plots that we're going out, we'll be looking for what needs filling. Each plot will need a certain number of people, and you'll kind of so some of your stuff will be filled out before the event. Some of it will be done at the time, and there are other recurring characters as well. So some people will play a plot NPC multiple times. Most of the time, you just go out the once, and that's it for that NPC.
Yeah. So I imagine it's like an instant kind of like an instant feedback, because some of it you can't script out the whole thing. But I guess is that why you tend to play obviously because you're used to the kit and you're used to the NPC and people are used to seeing you. But is that another part of playing the same NPCs, because how that type of plot is going to go on that character, and you can kind of feedback to PD in real time? Or is it just here's a script and then go do your thing and then see what happens?
So I'll talk about general stuff first. So I mean, what will happen is everyone will be everyone who's on plot NPC is going to come from a different background. So both in terms of what LARP they like to do, sort of what roles they like to play, and just simply what they know about best. Because one of the things about plot NPC, and one of the things about why it can be quite challenging to recruit people, is you've had people on before on the show talking about kind of how overwhelming the wiki is, right? How much there is. So that's if you're playing a character in a nation, right? If you're a plot NPC, you could feasibly play a character from any nation in the Empire, or a barbarian, or a foreigner, or a herald. And so now we don't expect everyone to know all of that, especially right off the bat. People will come in, but you've got to have a pretty breadth of knowledge. So people will have different experience. So for example, it's ironic, I have this recurring herald character who's probably one of the more famous NPCs in the field. I don't actually know that much about the Magic game, because I never played Magic game as a player. I never really got involved in that. So I had a kind of embarrassing experience once where I played a Knight Herald of Sodogua. Someone basically was like, "Oh, we're going to do a Sodogua plenipotentiary. Come along," when I was a relatively new NPC. And I walked into the Hall of Worlds and I'm like, this will be fine. And then Knight magicians start talking to me, and I've got no idea what they're talking about. And so I just kind of had to basically act like I didn't know anything, and I just sat in the post room and didn't have a clue what was going on. Yeah. So obviously that's a situation you don't want to be involved in. So people, tend to want to stick to what they know in terms of the roles. Yeah. But as you go on in plot NPC, you'll get a bigger and bigger grasp of everything that's going on, and anything you don't know you can just read beforehand, because we've got access to the wiki backstage.
I was wondering this. I met my first Herald last event, and I kept wondering, wow, like the way that they're able to respond and react to things as it's happening was incredible. And I kept thinking, do you have an earpiece or something in, or anybody feeding that information to you if you get stuck? Or is it just a case of you know that character and you know where you're hoping to go?
Yeah, so very rarely you'll have an NPC with an earpiece in. Generally speaking, that will be if it's a plot writer doing it. But most of the time, no, it's just you've got a brief that you remember. People take notes as well, often if there's stuff to remember. And just a lot of people backstage are wiki warriors and just remember all of this stuff. So yeah, and also you get good at improvising when you're plotting NPC as well, just kind of going with the flow of things.
Yeah, I was just about to say that, because it's not just like your knowledge on the wiki, it's the level of your roleplay competence, I guess, because as players, obviously we give everyone and we give each other a lot of slack. You know what I mean? We kind of flow in and out of roleplay, and it's like make sure everyone's comfortable. There's new players, there's new role players, but as players, when we're discussing the NPCs, the heralds, like we treat you as the plot that we get to go and interact, and we're like going almost to be. It's almost more of an audience uh, kind of thing for us, and I imagine like an entertainment part for you because we're going to you as the plot NPCs expecting a certain thing. Like we're going to you being like, oh, this is a herald of who did we Soren, and we're like, oh, we're that we went to go see, and it's like, oh, we're expecting a certain thing. Is that something that's very different from say like joining skirmish crew or something? Not that skirmish crew aren't great role players, but is there a bit more pressure on the NPC crew for that type of thing?
Yeah, sure. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, like I said, I have great fun being a plot NPC. I think some people think, we're backstage crewing and it's kind of a chore or something. Couldn't be further from the truth. Right? We love playing all of these roles, but yeah, you want to put, at the end of the day, the thing I always try to remember is that at the end of the day, I don't pay for events. I get all my food done for the people. When I'm a herald, the people I'm talking to, they've all paid, probably quite considerable sum of money to, come to this event, and basically, they're spending some of their fun time, with my herald character. So I want to make sure people are getting a fun product. So certainly, yeah, you take it seriously. You want to make sure you're well prepped. You're not gonna say anything that's gonna ruin anyone's game. You're not giving anyone the wrong information or anything like that. So it's we want to have fun and put out something good, but you're always remembering that this is. I mean, like you say, I think you said, what's the first time you've ever seen a herald on the field? People don't just the limitations of the size of the plot team, and especially now the size of the field means people just aren't going to encounter heralds and that sort of thing not often. So you want to really make sure that when they do meet one, it is a really special experience.
Yeah. So what's the NPC? Because obviously, like peering behind that like crew curtain, because we've spoken to like skirmish crew people. What's the structure like for NPCs and like skirmish crew? Because obviously we went on a conjunction last event, and we went to go meet with Herald Soren, and obviously it's like Soren's lackeys were there, and it was very much like, oh, this combat is very much a possibility here. But I was like, after the fact, I was like, I wonder if they're like, are they skirmish crew? Were they NPCs, or is there a mix of people who do skirmish crewing and NPCing, or?
So there's two separate teams. There's the skirmish NPC team, and then there's the plot NPC team. What will happen on skirmishes is you'll get a mix of both.
Right.
So basically, if you need a bunch of combat people, that'll be skirmish for sure.
Right.
But then often, if you've got some kind of NPCs on a skirmish, you need to do some talking or something like that. That will generally be the plot. You'll send out maybe like one or two plot NPCs or something like that to do that, as long as they're comfortable with combat. Which not everyone is, so it's up to people. There is a bit of bleed between the two though, so there are some skirmish crew people who are happy doing that sort of roles, and so sometimes we'll recruit people for that kind of thing, and sometimes the plot writers will get something special for skirmish crew if you need like a bunch of people. Just because there's more of them. It's very flexible backstage, so basically if people have got an interest in things, we'll try and get people to do whatever they're comfortable with. On the flip side, there's people in skirmish crew who are newer to the game and just don't have that knowledge of kind of the plot, or just don't kind of like that. They're here for fighting, they're not here for role playing and that kind of thing, and so don't want to do those sorts of roles.
And that's really good then, like that, the fact that it focuses, if people were to come and join as part of the plot crew or part of the NPC crew or part of the skirmish crew, what they're comfortable with is actually where they will end up being placed. That's really good, because I was thinking, if I were to go and join part of this crew, would I be put in a situation like, okay, you need to go out and speak to a load of these players in this sense, and if I wasn't comfortable doing that, would you then be put elsewhere? So that's really good that is like a focus there between, like, behind the curtain slightly. That is really good that is a focus on the people that are working there.
Yeah. You never want to put people in a position they're not comfortable with. So on plot NPCs at least, basically you get canvassed for what you want to do. So I think really don't like doing kind of crime and sort of like sneaking about role play. So I'm just like not into that really at all. On the other hand, I'm fine sort of doing public speaking and sort of actual like organising of stuff. So sort of organising in character as my herald the summer tourney that was happening sort of last year and making sure that runs smoothly. Some people wouldn't have liked to do that, for example. So yeah, you can do what you want, and we have people move teams as well. So yeah, there's people who've gone sort of from plot NPC to other teams. Some of them have gone to the civil service. We get people coming over from skirmish to join plot NPC. Sometimes plot NPC people will go do skirmish things as well if it's if there's nothing going on. And like I say, everyone backstage kind of works together to make sure we're putting out some really nice moments for people.
Yeah. So you say you've branched out into doing a little bit of the actual written plot stuff. Is that to do with your specific NPC, or is it a bit more broad than that?
So at the moment, it's just to challenge the Iron Duke stuff. So I guess to explain. So like I said, I play a long time herald called herald's called Revel. It's a herald of Barry and the Iron Duke, Lord of the Crossroads, Master of the Dragon Forge. Can't remember all of his titles. I try and use different one every time.
Well, if the herald doesn't know, then what chance have we got?
It's fun. It's fun. And basically, so I think Scarlett mentioned this, right? As Archmage Summer is basically there's a ritual in the system called Challenge the Iron Duke, which you can cast, and essentially what that does is it summons a herald to your tent who's going to come and interrogate you about your quest.
They come to the player. Oh, cool.
Oh yeah. People don't realize this. Yeah. So what the ritual does is it means that you get a challenge from Barian, who is an Eternal of Summer. And what happened is, so it used to just be me. There was someone else before me, so I Revel took over from a previous herald called Castellan, who was a previous NPC, and now there's a few more of us now. I've got some, I've got some other people who are sort of like trained up as Barry and Heralds. And yeah, if you cast the ritual, we're going to talk to you. We're going to find out what your deal is, how you best want to be challenged. And then yeah, you'll get a magical scroll, which will give you a challenge, and then you'll go off and do it and see if you succeed or not. And so at the moment, we turn up every Friday. We book a different place on Anvil every Friday for a couple of hours. So some of the Baron Heralds will turn up, and basically you'll see it in the Winds of Fortune. We'll say, we want to talk to these people for X, Y, Z reason. People who are all doing challenges. To make sure that's all going smoothly. But if anyone wants to come and talk to us, sort of, if you just want to come and talk to a herald, we're all very nice. But yeah, we're the nice, polite heralds.
I had no idea that you could do that.
Yeah. We're all chill. Yeah, so they're in the Winds of Fortune. So I'm always surprised not to.
It's always surprised. We put it in the wiki.
The wiki.
It sounds great because it's like a well, when Scarlett was telling about us, I was just like, yeah, I've basically been trying to think of a way why I've got a reason now why I'd want to challenge. I'm not gonna spoil it here. It's something I definitely want to do, but I like the idea because I didn't know about it before either. I definitely like the idea because it's almost like a personal quest, especially for like a big LARP system. It feels very much like that. Obviously, what people think that you might lose in the big fest LARP is that kind of contained adventure, but is that kind of what you're providing in these challenges, is kind of a personally tailored little adventure?
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, what we generally want to do is we want to, so when someone gets a challenge, that's now my duty is to that's my plot writing part, is I will write the challenge and write all the associated plot with it, and that's going to be tailored based on the character and what you tell us. There are boundaries which we'll discuss in character. The heralds will discuss kind of what Barry and will and will not do. But you'll get a little challenge. One difficulty with Challenge the Iron Duke is obviously we want to say, yeah, come do it, it'll be great. but we can't, we have got limited capacity. So at the minute, we've got a sort of nice number of people doing it. There have been times in the past where it seemed like half of Dawn wanted to cast it, and we had to kind of be like, chill out for a year. We just can't write. We can't write that much plot for people.
Yeah.
Specifically, Dawn, can you just chill out?
It was literally specifically Dawn. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dawn and Wintermark are the two who just love Barry and love challenges, love getting in there. Everyone else doesn't show me as much love, apparently.
Yes. So you cast the ritual, so summer ritual, right? So challenge the Iron Duke, and then is it ideally, if you've got the time, I'm assuming, and sorry, not the time, the amount of people able, is it the following summit then that you come to the tent to discuss the challenge?
But if you cast it during the summit, depending on what time you cast it, we'll come find you at the summit.
Oh, at the summit.
Yep.
Oh, right. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I'm assuming you'll come find, and then I'm assuming you sit down, and you go, right, okay, what challenge do you want to do? And then I'm assuming you then have to go away and then write the plot. Is that the kind of plot that you specifically might write in then, if you're going away, and then you have to write that challenge for that player? Is that the type of thing you're doing?
Yeah, that'll be yeah. We'll go away, and in the meantime, once we've gathered all the information, that's when we'll go away and work out what we want to do, and then come back, and you'll get a nice lovely challenge scroll and be sent on your way.
How crazy do the challenges actually get? Do people ask for outrageous challenges, like I want to kill a dragon or something?
Well, you don't get what you ask for. That's the big thing. Varian doesn't do requests, so basically you have to say what sort of thing you'd like to be challenged on, and then we're gonna come up with the rest. So it'll be it's a nice surprise.
Yeah.
For what you want to do, you can guide it to be sort of like what sort of thing you want to be challenged on, but the specifics is up to us.
Yeah.
If you want to know what challenges have gone on, you'll have to go and find some challenges and ask them in the field.
Yeah, because I've got, like, as I said, I've got an idea, and it's very much like, I want to prove this about myself, that type of thing. Not, I want a challenge involving this. But like you said, I'm assuming, because I was going to ask you that, I'm assuming that people can be like, hey, can it be more like combat focused, or can it be more problem solving focused, or political focused, things like that? I'm assuming.
Yeah. You can guide it in that sort of way, because we don't want to give someone a challenge that they're going to hate. So if someone says, I don't want anything to do with combat, or sometimes it's obvious based on what they said, but yeah, if you say I don't want to do combat, or I really want to do a combat one, or I want to test my skill at arms, or whatever, then yeah, we'll tailor it appropriately.
Yeah. How many of these a year do you actually get through? I mean, you've already said that sometimes there's just too many, and then you can't get through them. But how many currently are you like doing?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Does it take you? Does it take up all of your weekend doing them, or is it just part? Okay.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't take up all of my weekend. No, it's sometimes Revel gets roped into other stuff. So there have been occasions where I've spent a lot of the weekend as Revel, but that's usually because I'm doing stuff like there's the summer tourney last year, or Revel's kind of, like I say, Revel's kind of a magical NPC, because it's sort of like, if you want. So one of the things about Barrion is that Barrion is the Eternal is extremely neutral about stuff, and he's got amity with the Empire. So basically, often if something magical from summer has to happen that isn't going to cause like controversy with anyone, they'll just be like, Revel, go in and do it, because no one will complain. Whereas if a Night of Elinaris or something turned up, some people might get mad or something. So it's just, and also just the fact that I've done it loads, people know who I am, and it's if you just want something to happen smoothly, that can be useful.
Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, like, does Revel find then that they have special connections with those players out on the field that have actually had that interaction with them? And do you end up still seeing these people that have been challenged previously and still have that, that bond with them?
Oh yeah. So not just challenges. So certainly you'll see the challenges around, and people will talk about maybe doing another challenge or something like that, or thanking Barrion for their reward or something like that. But also just there's a bunch of summer mages and people like that who are always keen to make sure I'm doing all right. I think I put it in the comments of the one that Scarlett was on, but the first time I turned up as Revel, I didn't really know what was going on. It was sort of like it was just a whole sort of part of the game that I hadn't really interacted with before, so I wasn't sure like who to speak to and things like that. And then eventually Lucas, the Archmage, so it just comes up and it's just like, "You're Revel," and literally like grabs me by the arm, drags me around Anvil, just introducing me to everyone, which was really really useful. Because I probably wouldn't have met them otherwise, and sort of got me on the ground floor. So it's funny because we do the classic too busy people at LARP, because usually within that sort of 2 hour window on the Friday when we're trying to get everything done, it's usually kind of you're packing everything in, so we'll sort of pass like ships in the night where it'll be like, "Hello Revel, hello Luke," and then we're like, "Having a nice day," and it's like, "Yeah," it's like, "Okay, bye bye, see you next time." Because we're both going off to do whatever it is we're
you're doing.
up to.
Well, I mean, it sounds very much like, I know you said like the player experience is very different from the NPC experience, but it sounds very much like you are doing the types of things a player would be, or you're on the field a lot in kit doing story stuff, right? Is that the majority of your weekend, or do you spend quite a lot of time in the backstage tent?
It really depends from event to event, because it just depends on sort of what plots are going out there and what's happening. Sometimes there can be some downtime. Sometimes you can just be going straight from one plot to another, throughout the whole weekend. Ideally you want to be going out there as much as possible. Certainly I like to. Basically, I'll never turn down a pop personally. I'll always just keep going out there. That's what some people take a bit more breaks and things like that. It just depends on people's energy level and things like that. I mean one thing is, one of the things you have always got to kind of keep in mind is, each time you're going out as someone different, and so you've got to kind of erase all of those connections from your head of people that you know and interact with, and take it completely fresh. So if you're doing sort of a lot of things in a row, going out into the field is like sort of lots of different roles. That can be. You've got to get in headspace, whereas obviously everyone playing on the field is just playing one character start to finish through the rest of the event.
That's hard enough, because it like E1 this year, because like we had a lot of like quite a few like long-standing characters, and Dawn like obviously died at the end of last year, and then there was like that 8-month gap, and then we come back and then you're seeing the same faces out of character, and then you keep having to remind yourself this is a different character, I've got to interact with them differently. So I can imagine that must be difficult for an NPC, like you said, if you're constantly switching NPCs up. What's your kit like? Are you quite well like some of the heralds are in like huge great big suits, right? And others are a little bit more subtle.
So for Revel specifically, I've got a custom costume that was done for it. So all the Barrion heralds either because they're recurring, either have or will have their own stuff, and then basically a lot of the heralds have custom made stuff, or even if it's generic heralds, we've got kind of a nicer herald only stuff, and we'll make things up. But backstage there's a full costume rack for every nation, plus like accessories and all of that stuff, plus all of the foreigners and things like that as well. So basically for nation stuff, there's just kind of open racks and things like that, and people can just pick their own costume. And then there's really specific stuff for basically places outside of the Empire, because we want to make sure that they've got a really specific, distinct look, so that people immediately know that's someone not from the Empire. That's something special.
Obviously the best thing about Empire is those 10 distinct nations. Now I guess that's why the important thing is that everyone looks like they're from that nation. So when I actually had to get a phys rep for something. I won't go too much into it. I had to get a phys rep for something, and I was like, one of the main things I wanted to do was make sure, because it was from like not of the Empire, and I was like, I want to make sure it doesn't look of the Empire. And then I started asking people, I'm like, oh, I might make it look a bit like what about something that looks a bit Aztec? And then people were saying, you've been playing the game longer than me, being like, oh no, that's like this nation. I'm like, oh, what about like something a little bit like more like Normanish? And they're like, no, that's this nation. That's this nation over here. I'm like, oh, damn. Obviously,
we
all
didn't
have
realize how
their feels.
difficult it would be, because we were just like, oh, we'll just go and get something, it'll be fine. And everything we got, we're like, no, this could be linked to this nation, and this could be linked to that. And we had to like, you ended up doing a bit more research, didn't you, into like what, you know, other places outside the Empire would actually look like, and to make it look like it was definitely not from the Empire. But
yeah. So there is someone backstage whose job is just sorting out a costume. She makes a lot of the costume and makes sure it's sorted out. And basically, if you dress up for a role and are not dressed appropriately, you've not dressed the wrong kit. You will get you will get collared and told to put the right stuff in. But again, it's all part of the product. We want to make sure we're putting out something good for players. If this is going to be one of the times they interact with the plot, so.
Yeah, because that's it. A lot of people don't actually get to do that. Like it wasn't until, I mean, obviously apart from you go on skirmishes and you fight skirmish crew. It wasn't until like this event that we did any type of we did some Eternal game, and that was the first time that, I mean, I didn't actually interact too much with the heralds, but obviously it was that was the first time in 4 events we actually weren't interacting with players for a prolonged period of time. So it's not common, like you say. It's not common that you just bump into a herald walking around Anvil, right?
No, it is. I will say that though, there are some canny players out there because quite a lot of the plot NPC team have been around for quite a while. I mean, I've been doing it 6 years at this point. There's been people doing it longer than me as well. So you do get some people who see my face or one of the plot NPC's face and just like, something is afoot, and come and collar me. But no, I mean, one of the gratifying things is if you've dressed up in a particular costume, especially for a foreign nation, you step on the field and people just instantly clock you as go, oh, you're from XYZ.
From such and such.
If it's somewhere, that's where you've done a good job.
Yeah. So the 2 main games that you would do if you're on NPC team would be like the Eternal stuff and the Foreigners. Is that it, or is there other aspects to it?
I'd say probably the most common thing is just Empire stuff, just playing people from the Empire.
Right, okay.
I mean, yeah, that's a common thing. I mean, again, it's really going to depend on what people think is important at the time, but basically, roughly speaking, whatever is in the Winds of Fortune for that event, there's often going to be stuff relating to that going on. Heralds are a big part of it, or stuff to do with the Magic game. But yeah, Foreigners and Barbarians quite common as well. I'll often do that because there are some people in plot NPC who don't like wearing orc masks, whereas I'm totally fine with orc masks. And to be honest, basically all my favourite things to play are barbarian orcs or non-barbarians as the Grendel are right now. So I was one of the Grendel questioners. We were talking to the cardinals. I don't remember what the word is. Basically, a load of priests.
Yeah.
We were talking last time. So one of the absolute favourite things to do is be a barbarian or wandering around Anvil. It's always always a fun thing.
Yeah, because it gets the whole place buzzing, right? So there's stuff coming up with the Grendel soon, isn't there? Because everyone keeps telling me that because we started playing last year, and I think previously there was a lot of fighting against the Grendel. So we've as players we've never actually even set eyes on Grendel yet.
No.
So, but apparently there's some treaty coming up this year or something.
Yeah. So. Some of us remember fighting the Thule. That's for old heads only.
Oh yeah. It's that's the funny thing is that you don't know kind of what's going to happen, and it's really like, I know you can't like pull the curtain back too much, but sometimes you're like, oh, is it almost feels like, oh yeah, we're doing really well against the Druge now, and you're just like, it feels like just the right about time for something to go wrong and for us to actually go to war with someone else as well now. So
yeah, it feels like that. It feels like there's all these plates spinning with all these different barbarians, and those that we are not at war with, those that we are at war with. And like you just said, Oliver, it's just like we've just been fighting the Druge like every event, and it's like we're kind of getting there. And I'm just thinking, something bad's going to happen, isn't it? Something is right around the corner, and I'm not sure we're ready for it.
I'm trying to read Mike's expression.
I know. Me too. I'm like, I
so
saw a slight smile. And
trying so hard. That's a good question, actually. Like, you might be alright, you might not be. Like, if someone to join the NPC crew, do you get? I mean, because it's a freaking big plot. Like, there's so much going on. I mean, I'm assuming you don't know everything that's going on at any time anyway, do you? You must only really know your little corner of it, do you?
Yeah, so I'm getting now that I am doing some plot writing stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a bit more involved in that sort of thing. So, but I'll be honest. So even now, I don't have sort of like any input or knowledge about sort of the military side of the game. That's all very locked away. A lot of the long term stuff is locked away. When you're an NPC crew, especially when you're start, it will just be one plot at a time, and you'll be this is your plot. This has been written. Go off and do it. This is your plot. It's been written. Go off and do it. And sort of some people just stay with that. Basically, some people there's some people who've just been doing plot NPC. They're not interested sort of in the wider plot stuff or plot writing at all, and that's just how they continue. Some people will kind of get more into the broader spread of the plot, but no, even there's still stuff that you can be backstage a while and there'll still be kind of sways that you won't just know about.
You have no idea whatsoever. Oh, that's a good point. Actually, I was thinking about this the other day. So, is there someone? There's obviously must be. Is there one person in charge on the logistics of where you go beyond the Sentinel Gate? Because we went on that conjunction, and we were supposed to be obviously in the woods with Soren's lackeys, and it was just like I was like in this little spot, and I'm just like, this is the perfect spot, because I feel like it was. You wouldn't think there was like 3,000 people like behind you. It was just dead silent, and I was like,
no, it felt isolated.
Yeah, and I'm just like, I must have walked through these woods 100 times by now, and I can't actually recognize it. Is there someone in charge of being like, oh yeah, that needs to be in that part of the woods, but that can't interfere with that part of the woods, or do you just kind of figure out amongst yourselves where everyone's going?
So I think there's specific spots that stuff happens in. I believe that's not really my purview. I'll be honest. There is a set dressing team though.
Right.
So
okay.
particularly for the encounter tents, they're just in charge of dressing those up to look really really lovely and cool. And they'll do some stuff outside as well if you're going to a nice place, which is going to have some set dressing.
Yeah, because that's a lot to organise, isn't it? To be like, right, okay, we've got all these conjunctions going on, plus, we've got the big conjunction going on as well. So to have to be like, I mean, because when you think about like the bigger conjunctions, you're like, okay, it's pretty straightforward. If we want the Imperials coming out of the, onto the field or onto the woods, that makes sense. And obviously to have all the monstering people go the other way and up so they don't see each other, that's straightforward. But then I was like, when we went on these skirmishes, I'm just like, the turnover has to be pretty quick, and you have to make sure everyone's in the right place at the right time, especially when you're doing everything like half an hour blocks. That must take some logistics, right?
Yeah, that's certainly all timetabled out. Again, I'm not like super involved in that, but yeah, it's all there is certainly some Excel spreadsheet logistics behind that, I can tell you.
So do you get? Sorry, go on, Robin.
Oh no, I was literally just gonna say again, when we're saying about like some of all these sort of different interactions taking place, especially in the woods. And I mean, I feel like we've done enough fighting in the woods and enough skirmishes to have, or out in the woods and the fields to have been able to be everywhere. But every time we go through, even though I'm sitting thinking, I must have been in this exact spot before, but no, to me, I am in a completely different place. I don't recognize anything, and I am very alone right now because it just feels so spooky. Like speaking with that herald and the way that was set up was just absolutely incredible. I think I said before E1 that one of my biggest fears was interacting with a herald or an eternal. Like that was at the top of my list of one of the things that I was most scared to do because it sounded so scary. And it wasn't that bad. It was scary, but it could have gone worse. They don't all seem as lovely as Revel seems.
Revel's the top tier of lovely. I've played a lot worse than Revel. It's really good to hear that though, because I mean it's one of the strange things. So one of the things I'll say about plot NPCs is like I said, it's a really fun experience. You get to do so much, and just help the game run. It's Empire's favorite LARP I've ever done. It's still has been since the start. So once I was done playing, really happy to make it run. But when you go out on 7 or 8 or whatever many it is rolls or at a weekend, and you'll go out, do your plot, and then you're like, right, that's it, time for the next one, and you kind of go out. You can go and get, I don't want to say it becomes mundane, but it doesn't have the same impact. So then when you get the frothing players who are like, oh my god, that was so cool to meet your herald, and I was, and they're just telling you what an amazing experience it was. It really reminds you, oh yeah, this is cool. Which is a reminder to everyone that you should send your nice feedback in to PD or put it on Facebook, because all of the plot NPCs and skirmish and everyone love to hear the good times that people have.
Oh, of course.
And then
we'll make sure we put there's an email that people can send their feedback to, isn't there?
Yeah,
so
you can
we'll
send.
Make sure we'll put that in the description, and people can send all their lovely interactions with Revel in.
Yeah, and it really makes a difference as well, because sometimes it is a lot of hard work backstage. So, and you just you don't always know how things have gone. So you sometimes you have the encounter, you're out of there, and you're like, the players enjoy that. I hope so.
Well, because role play is a tricky thing. I mean, it's hard enough when because obviously we had a little bit more experience in tabletop before we came to LARP, but it's a similar type of thing. That sometimes when you're DMing, it's easier because you've got the people right there and you can get feedback a little bit easier sometimes. But it's always difficult because people are role playing things like anger and hatred or disgust or something like that. Sometimes, and then especially for you guys, because they just kind of leave you and go back to camp, and you're just like, yeah, did they enjoy that? Was that a good experience for them? Did they enjoy the whole thing or not?
Yeah. Usually, as long as someone's felt something strongly about it, that's usually a good sign. As long as people are kind of getting into it. The worst encounters are one where you kind of go out and just no one really cares. And just sort of it's a little bit middling, and sometimes that happens. Sometimes people just for whatever reason aren't interested, or sometimes you go out and there's a timetable clash, or something's come up that means people are just really busy and aren't interested in this weird guy who's come from outside of Anvil, and I don't know what they're talking about. Yeah. So sometimes that happens, but yeah, if you get a nice strong response, that's usually a good sign.
Yeah, because the one we went on, it was like literally from my character point of view, nothing. I did nothing because I was just there as muscle, and yeah, we went off into this. It went off into the woods, and it was one of we don't know which one. It was one of Soren's bands anyway, and they were basically like, why are there so many of you, and the people who were there for parlay, they were like, well, they can come, you have to stay here, and they were just encircling us, and trying to rile us up. While there was a conversation that Robin was a part of over with the Herald, and so my entire encounter was literally just standing like a damn sentinel like this, but it was such good game because it was so tense. That was why it was so tense, because I kind of had a feeling that it's either nothing's going to happen or something very bad's going to happen, very bad.
There was no in between.
No in between. So the fact that I walked in, did nothing, and walked out is one thing, but it was so good because of the tension that was there. It was so good.
Yeah, no, and a lot of the encounters like that, it's props to the set dressers and the encounter 10 people and all of that, or just the logistics people, because sometimes as an NPC you do just kind of look around and go, this is really cool. Yeah. This is like, we're not doing theater of the mind stuff here. This is this is some really, really cool stuff that people have come together and set up.
Yeah, this is atmospheric. So obviously, you want the good feedback for you guys is good, because then you know that if people are into that type of thing, you want to do more of that. But you alluded to earlier, to do more of that stuff, you need some more people. So you are currently looking for people to join the NPC side of the game. Is that right?
Yep, yeah, that's correct. So as of May 2023, Plot NPC is recruiting, as are several other groups. So it's all up on the wiki, the current crewing opportunities, because not all teams are always recruiting. So there's the current opportunities will be on there. But plot NPC often is recruiting, and that's because plot NPC and referee have the two most stringent requirements for coming in, and are also sort of the most limiting. So talk about the requirements. So if you want to join plot NPC, you need to have either a year's experience of Empire or 10 years experience of LARP. And this is just purely from experience, again, for all the stuff we talked about how much stuff you've got to know about the system. We want to send people out, and you be able to convincingly portray a character from wherever to a player. You don't want to go up, send someone out as an Urazeni and they go immediately shake someone's hand or something like that. But and also obviously we don't want to put people in a situation where they kind of go talking to a bunch of high ranking players and then realize they're out of their depth, and things are going to go wrong, especially just because of the way Empire is. You're an NPC, you go out, you put a piece of information into the world, you're going to go back to the tent, and that piece of information is just going to spread around the field while you're away. So there's quite a bunch of rules about how plot NPCs should interact with players, basically to try and stop that from happening. And then the other thing is, when you are a plot NPC, so you don't get to play the event as a character. You can have what's called an R&R character if you want. So it's just a character who you play on your downtime, but you shouldn't expect to get more than kind of like a couple of hours. Usually it's kind of like you might go out late at night. When most of the plots are done, but even so, there are plots running basically right until timeout. So sometimes you won't get to do that at all, and you're very limited in what you can do as an R&R character. You're only be in the field for a few hours at most, but also there's a bunch of stuff you're not allowed to do because as plot NPCs, we know a ton about the game. We have access to all the backstage information. But you shouldn't be taking game away from players. And also, ideally, you want to be a plot NPC for at least a year straight, because just so you can get into those roles and kind of because there is a bit of a learning curve kind of going in. So you want to get in. We don't want people doing a plot NPC for an event and then go playing for an event and doing plot NPC or anything like that. It's want it to be kind of like a commitment. So like I say, it's the most fun I've ever had, probably LARPing, to be honest. It's certainly, I to some degree prefer it to playing. Certainly now that my playing's over, but it is a bit of a commitment.
Yeah, so that's a requirement, is that like you play for at least, and when you say year, like all 4 events, ideally, if you can.
So when we say a year, kind of, that's more of an expectation that you're going to come in and do a chunk of NPCing. There's no requirement that you turn up for every event.
Right. Okay.
If you can just turn up for it's just you can't go back to playing.
Yeah, just like so you can't go. Oh, I'm going to NPC this event and play that event and NPC this event.
Yeah.
So you can't just do
that. Obviously, if you turn up and you decide it's not for you, and you want to go back to playing or go to another group, that's fine. It's just the you get people sometimes who are like, oh, I'd like to NPC one event out of 4 and then play the rest, and that's not possible, unfortunately. You'd need to look at, if you wanted to crew, you'd need to look at one of the other crew groups who do let you play the event, like the kind of Red Caps or Gate crew.
So if people then are wanting to, or they've got the experience, they've got the commitment there, and they really want to come and do it, how are they best actually putting themselves forward for that? Are they best going through the wiki and contacting through there, or are they best emailing?
Yeah, you need to email. I believe it's crew@Profound Decisions. The email address is definitely on the wiki.
We'll put it below,
yeah. And then what happens? So the head of NPC is someone called Beth. They'll get in touch, and they'll sort of discuss from there with you. All the requirements, what the setup is, and all of that, and then hopefully you'll come along and come to the event, and we'll start giving you some roles. It'll be good fun.
What about kind of time outside of events? Because I know we've spoken to a couple of egregores, and they're usually like their job is at the event, and that's kind of it. So what kind of time is expected of you outside of the event?
So the minimum is you have to is 4 p.m. on Friday. We have the
Okay.
plot NPC meeting, and then basically through to the end of the event, and help with takedown. Essentially, if you don't want to do anything outside of those times, you don't have to. There's no
Alright, okay.
requirement. Generally speaking, lots of the plot writers like to precast as many of their plots as possible. So we have a Facebook group and a Discord, and where that's done, where basically they'll say these are the plots I'm running, and
Right.
sort of give you the opportunity. So you might have some reading before the event.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to, you can just turn up to the event, NPC it, and go home.
All right. Is that kind of dependent as well what type of NPCing you're doing? Like if you're, because like you were saying, if you're doing a lot of kind of in-depth plot or something like that, or you're doing several characters, I guess that you'd probably want an idea of what type of thing you're going to be doing.
Yeah, so you might want to do kind of your homework and read up on the brief and read up on and also just reading the wiki is useful as well. Just kind of if there's often if there's a plot I can see that's coming up or that I saw on the last event that's on an area of the game I'm not super familiar with, I'll make sure I do my reading on it. So if it does come up in the future, I feel more prepared. But that's not a requirement. That's just because I like to do that. I like reading the wiki. So
yeah, it's one of the things that it's not that like the wiki's a lot for me. It definitely is. And it's just the way I kind of process information. It's if I can read the wiki better if I go out and experience it in the field and then go and read the wiki. So like basically if I read something on the Eternals, I'm like, this means nothing to me. But then if I get dragged into like some Eternal game and then I'm like, oh, like I'm way more likely then to just go and read up like Soren on the wiki, I think is a lot of people like the audio version as well. But I think with the audio version, it is literally just it's just a reading word for word of the wiki. But I think the best way to absorb the wiki is just to go and do it in play. I guess that's why they want you to do like a year of Empire first before you do any NPCing. I guess that's that type of thing.
yeah, and hopefully if you've got that experience, then maybe if you've only played. I mean, I've only ever played in the league as a character.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you how many characters I've had. I have a habit of dying on the battlefield, unfortunately. But you'll meet people from other nations, all through you play. So even if you might not have ever gone on the Navarre page and read it in depth, it's like, you might get cast for a Navarre role and you're like, I've met Navarre before. I'll have a look at the wiki to make sure I've got it right. But I've got an idea of what's going on and sort of what isn't. It's not the done thing. So
yeah.
I mean, it just depends on what you do. Some people do prefer to do it that way. Some of us are a bit of obsessive preparers like me. It's just all how it takes all kinds in NPC crew, which is one of the good things. There's different people for different roles. We're not all the same.
Exactly. Or you could start a podcast and just get people on and ask them about
them
their nations.
Teach us everything.
That's literally how I've learned about Empire. It's just like, because we started this and we were like, we're just talking about our experiences. I'm like, let's get other people, let's get our friend. Because at first we had friends that we met Empire, friends that we knew before we went to Empire, that went to Empire. They were in different nations. We were like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if we got like Jamie on to come and talk about Navarre or something like that. And then everyone was like, people were like messaging us being like, oh, you're gonna do all 10 nations. I'm like, well, I guess we better do it now. Better do it now. So that's the way I've learned Empire is by just asking questions on a podcast.
Definitely. I mean, like I think I've done the same thing as you said, Oliver, where I've tried reading the wiki, and I really do struggle to absorb the information in that way. I read the stuff I needed to read. And then, like we said, if I went and interacted with something, like before we were going around lots of nations, gathering like love stories and things. And when I was in Varushka, I was like, oh, there's a lot of really exciting things here. When I got home, I was like, I'm going to read the Varushka wiki and actually learn about those things I interacted with, because there's an understanding there. So for yourselves, crew NPCs, plot NPCs, sorry. If somebody's joining as a plot NPC and they are quite new to it and everything. You said there's like the Facebook group and things like that. Is there a way are there people there that they can get in touch with between events if they are, you know, struggling with a bit of plot that they've been given or something? Are they able to just sort of ask lots of questions and get a lot of help between those events?
Yeah. I mean, generally, it's kind of will happen more at the event. You know, when people are coming in for the first time, generally you're going to get sent out with other people. You know, we're not just going to like chuck you in the deep end and say go, unless it's someone who's really experienced. You know, sometimes you get people come in who've played for years and years, and so you know are perfectly happy to just go and do that. But you know, yeah, it will get people up to speed, make sure they go out and sort of see what the deal is, and the plot writers as well, you know, before every role are gonna make sure everyone's briefed and you know as everything they need going in. So yeah, we take care of people, and again, it's the double thing. We want to make sure that we're giving a good product to the players, and we're not putting, you know, any of the crew in a position they don't want to be in. Yeah, we don't ever want to feel like people are out of their depth and are worried they're going to say the wrong thing or mess anything up.
Yeah.
Which is a very real concern. Like that's,
well, that's what I was wondering, actually, if that is a real concern. Are there, you know, procedure, or like without looking behind the curtain too much, is there procedures in place for if something does happen and somebody does get confused, says the wrong thing, goes into the wrong detail? Is there a way of rectifying those things, or do you just go with it and see what happens?
I mean, it depends on what you said, but yeah, generally you would try and rectify it. So sometimes, I mean, so the main thing is that we're told is that you never make stuff up
right,
that you don't know about. You never make stuff up, and if in doubt, you just say no if someone's sort of asking you something. So that's because again, it's if you're in a smaller LARP, just is Empire the only LARP that you've done?
Yeah.
Okay. So in a smaller LARP, you might have a lot more leeway, you know, for a player to for an NPC to sort of say something, and then you kind of go with it. But like I said, because of how big Empire is and how interlinked everything is, it's really important that we maintain the integrity of what's going on and don't have NPCs putting out the wrong information. So yeah, we will try and rectify that if it does happen, but ideally you just never get to that point. And if you ever get stuck, you know, we can always find someone with a radio.
Have you actually ever experienced that?
So I've never. I'm not going to say never. I don't think I've ever done that. There was a moment in the Grendel questionnaire thing at the last event, which not particularly secret, so I think it's fine to talk about, where there were 4 Grendel talking to assembled Imperial priests, and we're having a discussion about you know, the relationship between sort of what's the difference between like a questioner and a cardinal, sort of having that discussion about what's the different relationship in each of the nations. And someone asked me the question, it's like, so I was playing a questioner of the Grendel virtue of fidelity, which is like loyalty but different. And they went, is there more than one questioner of fidelity? And I just paused, look at them, and I was like, 1 second. I had to go over to Matt P, who was also in the encounter, and just went, is there more than one questioner of fidelity? And he's like, of course there is. I'm like, of course there is. And that's how we solved that situation. So yeah, sometimes you've just got to be like, give me a second. There have been times as Revel, when I was not the plot writer, where someone would ask me a question and I would just be like, I need to go and speak to Varian, and I would just have to walk back to Monster, ask a question, and then walk back and just be like, this is your answer. Because I did not want to say something that was not correct. And then have to, because then I have to do, because then you have to deal with the mess afterwards.
It's such a big system as well. Like you were saying, compared to a small system, like if the wrong thing is said at Empire, that would just spread. Like thousands of people would then be thinking something about a certain herald that is just that is quite scary.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. That's the thing. It happens, especially for things. It must happen all the time for the things that aren't verifiable, because it definitely happens to the things that are verified. Like when stats come out, like all weekend, everyone was like, I still don't know what the stat is yet, but all weekend people were like, oh yeah, Navarre's now the biggest nation. Navarre's now the biggest nation. And then it just went round like wildfire that Navarre is now the biggest nation. All these little things, even rules and things like that. People go, oh, this is how this works. And if enough people say it, that becomes the rule, you know? And it's like, is it? And then you check the rule, you're like, oh, actually, it's actually this, because people just keep saying it.
The number of things that people will swear blind to you is true, and some long element of plot or something, and it's just something a player's made up.
Yeah.
And we have got no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, it's not infrequent for you to come back from a plot and be like, players are talking about like this. Is this a plot? And people are just like, no.
I was going to ask you that actually. I was like, yeah. So sometimes you'll go around, and because obviously, like, that's what I meant by the whole like that live feedback thing. So if you're like walking around, say if you're like walking around the league as a league NPC, and you're doing some plot, and then like you say you hear them talking about something, do you ever like go, what, wait, hang on, they're gonna do what? And do you ever like run back and go, by the way, the players are talking about this, do we do anything about it, or do you just let them get on with it?
Oh, you just let them get on with it usually.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's so sort of, Matt mentioned this when he was talking, it's like there's very much sort of a boundary between the sort of the backstage stuff and Anvil, the 3,000 people sort of doing stuff in Anvil. What goes on in that big pot of 3,000 people all talking to each other is often quite opaque to us backstage, and then occasionally something will, if they try and sort of breach the barrier and ask a question or interact with the plot in some way, then at that point we can go, we can react appropriately. But a lot of the time, this is a really common occurrence for plot NPCs. You'll sort of come out of the event and you'll have to sort of ask people what happened.
Yeah.
Because just that people will start talking about stuff and you're just like, what you want? We didn't hear about this at all, because your interaction with players is basically strictly limited to the plots that you deal with. I mean, one of the interesting things that happens is when a player character gets really prominent, you'll see this. I'm not sure if you'll have seen this actually yet, if you only started playing in the last year, but you'll start seeing messages underneath Winds of Fortune saying, this person is a player character, they are not an NPC. Do not contact PD about this. Go and talk to this player character in character. So that happened with the Empress. People thought the Empress Lizabetta was an NPC. There was Yale. Have you heard about Yale? Do you know anything about Yale?
I don't know anything. No.
Oh, this is exciting. This is one of the interesting things about Empire, is there is like ancient history that happened in play that people don't know about. Yeah. So Yale was a highborn priest of courage who had a past life vision and came back and claimed she was the first Empress reborn, and that she had ascended from the Paragon and had returned from the land before tears. And to play a character, she just came back, she just said this. A bunch of plot happened as a result of this. So basically she ended up with this amassed this following, in part because loads of parts of the synod said, yeah, she's cool, we like Gail, we should follow her doctrine, and basically over I think it was like a couple of years or something, this there was this plot arc developed, as people started supporting her, and she assembled this kind of like an army of followers backstage. Then people rejected her, and eventually she was executed for heresy in public. But Yale was a PC, and after all these Winds of Fortunes, it was just like, Yale is a PC. This is a player character doing stuff. Go and talk to the player character if you have if you want to do something with Yale. This is not PD. This is not PD's doing.
Yeah, is that something? I mean, probably it's not something that I imagine you deal with, but like, does it happen sometimes that if you get prominent, then people start treating them like NPC or crew? Is that ever an issue? Like, as in, like, for the player to be like, hey, I'm getting hassle. I'm getting hassle because of my play.
I know people who it's happened to. It's not really a hassle per se. It's more it's more the PD will get complaints from players being like, "Why are you running this plot out?" or something, or "I interacted with this NPC," and they have to go, "It's not an NPC. That's a player. Go talk to them." And sometimes you get the reverse as well, where people think an NPC is a player. And then you sort of have to gently let people down. It's like, probably not going to see this person again. You probably shouldn't spend your time looking for them. Because sometimes it's like, oh, I want to send icy mail to XYZ. It's like, no, I don't think that's going to happen.
No, well, that's the thing. Like you said earlier about like people will like recognize you, and they're like, oh, I know what's going on. But I think like Pixie was telling us a story about some like Varushkan coming in to like stimulate a bit of plot, right? It was an encounter temp thing, but it was a Varushkan coming in going, oh, I need someone to help with my group, blah blah blah. So yeah, he knew it wasn't a player character, but honestly, if someone, I mean, maybe in Dawn, I think I probably know enough people in Dawn now, but I don't know. I think that even in Dawn, maybe if someone just ran in and they were dressed Dawners, I probably wouldn't instantly be like, oh, that's an NPC. That's an NPC, because especially if you're newer, you wouldn't know, would you?
No.
I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, oh no, I've never interacted with an NPC, and I'm sitting here going, have I?
Might have.
Maybe I have. Yeah. There was someone I interacted with last event who I'm still questioning if this was a player or not.
Wait, what interaction was this?
I don't even tell you about this interaction. It was
we're getting secrets on air.
What?
It was the person that did the storytelling in Navarre, the really scary, creepy story, and I saw them on the field, and then I went to speak to them, and the interaction was so scary and creepy and bizarre, and they didn't look like they fit into any of the nations, and then they disappeared, and I ever since then I've been like, who did I speak to? Because it went very dark very quickly. I'm sure it's fine.
I'm trying to think who that was. Were they not from Russia?
I said you should come back, and then they said, "Are you openly inviting me to Navarre?" And I was like,
"Oh no,
no, I don't think so." And they were like, "I only need an invitation," and I was like, "Oh no, have I just killed a lot of people in Navarre?
What have I done? What have I done?"
Sorry, Navarre.
Yeah. Are there NPCs that do that type of like that are a little bit more like not what's the right word? Not like big plot, but will just dot about for little things like that, or is it usually, or have you not really got the people to just do mundane plot? Is it always just something like, oh, this is you're either an emissary or a quest giver or something, or do you get to do anything mundane?
Yeah, there's certainly some sort of mundane plots. I mean, it'll usually be related to something that's going on in the world at the time. So maybe sort of seeing what people's opinions are on things, or trying to suss out what's going on. So yeah, there's certainly like lower. Not everything's like super high stakes or anything like that. Yeah. Again, it really depends on what people think would be interesting to do. To do at the time. We got written up in the militia for this a couple of events ago. We played a bunch of students from Axos, foreign nation Axos.
Oh, nice.
Who were just on a bar. That was the plot. That was the plot.
Yeah,
we just went around on a bar.
Great plot.
Yeah.
So
that's one part of the plot I haven't, because I haven't interacted with any of the foreign nation stuff at all. So what about things like because I've got to admit, like for Empire, I don't know whether it's just the feel of the game and everyone gets into the feel of it. It doesn't seem like a lot of times. I know I have heard situations where this happened, but do you guys get briefed on things like what if the player base gets like kind of in character aggressive, and like is there a lot of combat situations if you're playing like emissaries, or if you're playing people from foreign nations. Yeah.
Oh yeah, can be. So here's a funny story. Again, this happened pretty much in public, so it's not really much of a surprise.
Yeah.
So first event, this might have been my first role when I came back. No, I must have played Revel before this, but basically E1 after the pandemic, first thing that came back, one of my first roles was playing a Grendel guy coming onto Anvil, because repeat Grendel people can come to Anvil now. So it was me. I had 3 bodyguards because we were like, this might get spicy. And I was fully confident that everything would be fine.
Yeah.
Because generally speaking, people talk a bigger game than they'll actually do, right? Yeah. And I was like, I've been in this kind of situation before. I've been like a Yatoon on Anvil before, and it's fine. Like people won't do anything. People might look like they're
look like they're going to do something,
but they generally won't. We took 5 steps onto the field, and there was probably like 25 people all staring daggers at us, and we got to the Senate before basically a lynch mob descended.
Really?
And we got robbed. We were healed afterwards, which is very nice. But yeah.
Who was it? Was it the Freeborn? Was it the Freeborn?
I believe this is a matter of public record in the courts.
Have to go find
out. Because I think the person got arrested. But yeah,
really?
This is ringing a bell. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, not to give too much away about what happened, but yeah, certainly. So sometimes you're going to go into a situation where you're going to get shanked, and that's that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, if you're playing a character like that, it's like things might happen, but they might not. And if it happens, it happens. That's the thing. If you play an emissary, you go into the field, and the Imperial Society stab you. That's what happened then.
Yeah, of course, like you said, the player base does seem to, like you say, talk a bigger game, because when we first came into, like, again, it was our first LARP that we had done, and I think there are other LARPs where it is a little bit more like, especially PvP and things like that. But like you hear stories. Oh yeah, there was someone murdered by the toilets. There was someone murdered at murder alley. Blah blah blah. And it's just like I've never seen an actual fight, like over 5 events. I've never actually seen. Apart from dramatics like in the Glory Square, I've never seen anyone like actually having a life-threatening like altercation with anyone like in Anvil. It's not very common at all, and when it does happen, it's like the most massive gossip ever.
Yeah, like everyone knows, because it's so weird that it happened.
Like some Marcher General running in and get themselves killed.
I was in that. I was one of the Yagara outside the Senate for that for the thing. That's definitely top 5 roles I've ever done. That was incredible, because that was a moment that really showed off Empire, I think, because you couldn't get that experience at any other LARP. Both just the sheer number of people, because we was like 15 or 20 of us, and one of the fun things about NPC, right, is that if you're coming on as someone who's walked to Anvil, right, you're not playing everyone who's coming in through the woodworks. You're coming in the regular way. You've got to go up that road. So you come down from Monster. You sort of, we gather up 15 to 20 of us by God, but we can't see the gate, right? We're round the corner. So we're gathering up, and we don't know what's round the corner, and we round the corner preparing to go in, and there's like 200 screaming people. They're like the instant we turn the corner and walk onto Anvil, and just like the atmosphere of that is just like unlike anything, because like the passion that people like were able to generate, like from that moment, you had like basically everyone from the marches who were all just down, ready to like just scream and go crazy, and we were outside the Senate, but we had no idea what was going on. Like we were just going outside. Matilda Fisher goes in with one of the Yatoon, and then that's it. We just have no idea what's happening. So when like the assassination attempt happens, we just hear like a bunch of screaming behind us, and we're just like, what has happened? Like in character, we're just like, and out of character, we're just like, what has happened? Is Matilda Fisher dead? Is she alive? Like what? we have no idea. And we were just like, at any point, this gigantic mob could just like beat us to death at any point. But but it didn't, as it happened. But it was just like the atmosphere of that was unbelievable, and like unlike anything else I've had at a LARP, definitely.
So you're actually, that's the thing, you're actually LARPing, even though you're calling yourselves NPCs, but it's like, and you do follow like a plot. There's a plot to follow, but you're not following a script. Like in those moments, you are LARPing because you're having a role player and just react to what the players are doing. So you don't know what's what's gonna happen. You probably have an idea, right? But you don't know what exactly is gonna happen.
No, I was that one I wasn't with that, and that one the role was I was actually playing a Yagara who'd been to and/or the previous summit side, which again was a similar but different experience, where it was me and the plot writer in the March of Moot, basically getting simultaneously yelled at by 150 people, and we got complimented on our conduct after that. We said we held up quite well. But no, this was a plot I came on sort of. I didn't have very much notice. I think basically they were like, "Oh, we need like a bunch of Yagara to guard Matilda Fisher. Do you want to come?"
Like, yeah.
And that was basically my brief. It's like, you know what a Yagara is. You know who Matilda Fisher is. You played the person before. Get out there and spend 30 minutes or whatever it was shouting at marchers and getting shouted back.
Yeah. All right. So say you're in the NPC part of the team and you're in the tent. And then obviously you've got your characters play. Is that something that often happens, that people will literally just be like, "Hey, here's some plot. Do you want to, get out there and do that?"
Generally speaking, that kind of thing happens for if you've got like a plenipotentiary or a delegation or something like that, where it's like we need a bunch of people to go do something. It's you do get some last minute plots, like if just the timetable is not worked out or anything, and then then you've got to go read your brief up normal. But sometimes it'll just be like, hey, we want to go do a thing, we want some people. So again, this is where it helps to have a good knowledge of everything, so people can just say, we need a Grendel person to assist this person who's briefing is going to do all the talking, but you have to play a Grendel. Off you go.
So
that sounds really cool, actually. Just that whole not knowing, obviously, you know what you're doing with some of the plot, but that sort of like unknown of what's going to happen at the event, because I guess everything is quite spontaneous a lot of the time. So being able to just be like, we need a Grendel, who wants it, that sounds pretty cool.
And sometimes you do get plot written at the event as well, so sometimes you will have some like some proper spontaneous stuff because the players have done something mad, and we get to go in and see what's happening.
Sitting there being like, what have they done now? What have they done that has provoked this at the event?
And that's great. That's what we want, right? We don't want it to be boring. We want people to just take stuff, and that's often what we're looking to do as NPCs. There's basically, I can't remember if it was Andy Raffles or someone else who wrote it, that basically you should always be looking to escalate every situation you're in. Like if you can, you always want to be like, because it's very tempting to go, how can I, like what's the reasonable thing to do in this situation? But where possible, you want to be like, it will be the unreasonable thing that would make this situation much more exciting.
And human empathy can be a hard thing to kind of get over when you're trying to, like you say, when you're trying to be not an antagonist, but maybe you are trying to like antagonize that situation, and you're role playing with people and they're like, we really want this. I suppose you have to sometimes, you're like, oh yeah, you know what, I kind of want to give it to them, but actually it would be better game if I didn't give it to them, or if I if I make it harder for them to get it.
Sometimes, and when it comes, I mean, my personal absolute favorite thing is to play foreigners and barbarians. That's because that's you get to be part of a team that really brings the world to life. This is the nobody can play these people apart from the plot team. It's going to be the only interaction they have, and it's really fascinating and interesting to be able to bring a different perspective into the game. So you live in the same world as the Empire, all the people playing Empire, all of that stuff, but you've just come at it from a completely different viewpoint, so you can escalate a situation by being completely reasonable, just because you're saying something that's totally reasonable to you, but is complete anathema to an imperial, and you know, and you can get some really good reactions out of that. Like sometimes you can, you know, give a hint away from, you know, something that's in the foreigner brief or the barbarian brief or something. You see people go, interesting, like, you know, something they just like not thought of before. Or, you know, you can put like a seed of doubt in people's mind about, you know, how the empire's run and things like that, and maybe get people, you know, to think about maybe why things are the way they are. Because one of the great things about Empire is that, you know, all of the antagonists in the Empire, or the antagonists to the Empire, I should say, all have their reasons for doing things. You know, like the Yatun society is set up in a particular way, that's, you know, makes sense to them, but it's just totally incompatible with the Empire, and the same for everyone else around it.
Yeah.
So my favorite roles are where you can have these really rich discussions with people who, you know, are from the Empire and are trying to sort of, you know, match you in a battle of wits, and you're trying to, you know, put your point across from the foreigner's point of view. That's when you really got to think on your feet, because there you've just got to take a you know, just a brief of, you know, what the foreign nation or the barbarians are about, and then go toe to toe with someone who's trying to sort of,
especially when
trying to debate you.
Especially when they're in it as well, and they're like they've got like, you know, thousands of people around them that are all role playing that they believe in the same thing, the same thing, you know.
Yeah. Luckily, it's not hard to get two people in the Empire to disagree on something.
Oh.
So, you know.
It was like when we were speaking before about the Jotun specifically, and out of character, so no one come and execute me, okay? I don't really think this in character, but out of character, I was looking through some of the stuff and I was like, do you know, I feel like we're actually the bad guys in this situation. The Jotun have got some really good points, and they seem to have a good system set up here.
Oh no, yeah, I've always thought that. It was like we were supposed to be talking about the Jotun. I'm like, oh, today we're talking about the good guys. The good guys compared to the Empire.
A little bit more honourable, actually. Now I think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, then the key with the foreign nations and barbarians is, so you have that first moment of people where it's like, oh, the Empire are the good guys, they're the protagonists, and then you have the second moment where you're looking like, oh, maybe the Empire are the baddies, and maybe the Yatun are the goodies, and then you have the third moment where you read more about the Yatun.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like, oh no, they're also
they're also yeah. It's shades of grey. I think it would be. That's what maybe the game wouldn't work if it was all just black. Oh yeah, this is a good nation. This is a bad nation. You know, it's not like.
No, you need those shades of grey, don't you? Like you need like that sort of that development, that sort of thing, that this is actually a full barbarian nation. You know, there has to be, you know, something more going on there, not just good guys and bad guys. And it's just, I think the issue with the Jotun with us is we've always played them like when we've been monstering. And there's been so many moments there where I've been like, wow, the way that I play my Jotun character is it's quite honorable and nice compared to maybe sometimes how my Empire character is like in a battle. I mean, I'm literally standing there being like, it's unhonorable to fight this person crawling away. I will let them go. My Empire character would have killed them if they were on the other side.
Yeah, it's I know, especially when you're playing Dawn, because this is like you said, it's so easy to get people debating. Like I can like even on like I can debate people on Glory instead of people. One Dawnish person would be like, oh yeah, well this is Glory. I'm like, actually no. People will get confused, especially with the Jotun. They go like they always do this. They always go, oh yeah, that's not very glorious. I'm like, you mean it's not very honourable? that's what you're talking. I'm always like, leave the honour to the Jotun and the Wintermarkers probably, but it's like, no, hey, if it's you want to win and it, by any means necessary, that's glory, you know.
Yeah, no. Empire is a game that's very much based on ambiguity. Like it's at every level, you know, there's ambiguity at the heart of it. There is no one right answer, and the game runners have said, you know, from the very beginning, there's going to be a bunch of stuff which is just never going to be firmly settled in play, to leave that ambiguity, and even so, there's plenty of stuff where people have all the same information, but have come to different conclusions. With sort of the evidence that leads to the way of virtue and things like that. At the end of the day, the Empire follows the way of virtue because the way of virtue is specifically designed to be a fun religious system to actually play a LARP in. You don't have to worry about whether someone in the Commonwealth or the Yatoon is fun to play. But at the end of the day, you can still they have access to all the same information that the Empire does for the most part, but they've just their society has come about in a different way. And they're you can have an interesting sort of debate. They can be an interesting foil to the Empire. I mean, I love the Yatoon. I love the Yatoon as a concept. My favorite thing is to play Yatoon characters, but basically because of this reason, because they have a very fleshed out system and ethos and things like that, and you really whenever I'm Yatoon, I always really emphasize the difference between the Yatoon and the Empire is that the Yatoon, yes, we have thralls, right? The Yatoon have thralls, and the thralls are bound to the Yatoon, but the Yatoon are bound to the thralls as well. It's the duty of the Yatoon to protect the thralls who are in their charge. And you can't say the same for the Empire, because the Empire doesn't seem to have a lot of care about its individual citizens. So maybe you don't have, well, the Yatoon wouldn't say they have slaves, but that's a matter of some debate. But so you can say, what your
well, this is the thing. It was like, I think when we were talking about the Yatoon, I'm like, oh, they're the good guys, and I got hit back with that. They were like, oh yeah, well, they are slavers. I'm like, well, I don't know if it's a trade for them, It's not really like, I don't know if it's business for them, but I mean, you could see it as slavery, Hey, I mean, it sounds very similar to the Dawn Yo-Folk relationship, really, It's just...
anyone in your society can pick up a sword at any time,
according to the marchers. Exactly.
According to the
marchers, it sounds very similar. It's the Yo-Folk Dornish thing is I love that because I think it's very unique in the game compared to every other nation, and it's harder for the Yo-Folk players. But they do a very good job of justifying it because they get it at all angles. They're like, they have the marchers being like, oh yeah, well if they don't treat you right, then why you a servant to them? And they're like, no, we're not servants. And it's easy for the nobles because we're just like, oh yeah, well they can be noble anytime, or they can leave and go to the marches, But yeah, the some of the Yo-Folk players are very good at justifying why, like, no, I don't want to be a noble because of this, and no, I'm not a servant because of this, The game's so good at giving you those little things just to cling on to and fight your case.
Oh, definitely. And I think every Empire player definitely does like a good argument about a different part of the game that they are invested in. But yeah, I mean, you said that you really enjoy playing the sort of the barbarian races and things like that. When it comes to the actual like big battles and things like that, do you have much role within there at all?
So some people do. I've got an arrangement where I will play the battle and then I run an elite monster unit on the whatever day the league is monstering. So I can't actually remember whether I didn't start the league of monster unit. Someone else did, but I took over running it quite early on. I can't remember whether that was before or after I joined NPC crew. I think it was after. But yeah, I had an arrangement. But generally, so plots will go out during the battle. So some plot NPCs will be going out because not everyone goes out to battle. So there'll be stuff going out in the morning. Some people will do stuff during the battle. Will play sort of full named NPCs during the battle. Some people just go and do skirmish or battle it themselves. So it really depends on what people want to do. Essentially, definitely on some battles there is plot NPC roles out there. Although a lot of the battle NPC roles are played by skirmish crew as well.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds pretty flexible. So currently, as of May, it is May today. Yeah, as of May 2023, how roughly how many people are you actually needing for NPC crew? Are you, as in, is it a big number? Is it a medium number? Is it a small number?
I believe speaking to Beth, it's about 8 or so.
Okay.
About 8 or so people that we could get.
Absolutely need, yeah.
I can't, don't quote me on that number. It's not my job to
so
recruit.
You're not at the need where you're like, not at the moment where you're like, crap, we need like hundreds of people to come in and NPC at the minute.
No, so so we're pretty low on NPCs at the minute, basically. But we've got enough to get by. Like I say, we're trying to get people in who are interested. Maybe people who've been playing their character for a long time and are maybe looking for a change of pace, or have maybe done stuff. The most common phrase that I hear, it's like, "Oh, I'd love to join NPC crew when my character's dead."
Yeah.
And
I totally get
like,
it.
okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's up to people really. Like I say, the sort of perfect NPC recruit is someone who's been playing the system for a while, is looking to move on. Maybe they're not super keen on the kind of politics side of things of Empire, because that, like I say, from having a hat in the past, that can be the kind of exhausting part, is just all the politics around getting a hat and how much of your event that can take up, and spending all of that time just doing that at an event, to go from that to then just being like, you're going to get to do a bunch of different stuff at an event. It's going to be all different stuff. You're going to get to do stuff you couldn't do as a player. It could be like a really refreshing change, and there's a bunch of people out there who prefer that that style of play to the to kind of what you get on the player side, and vice versa. There's plenty of people who prefer that to the NPC side.
Yeah, I mean, I guess once we've tried, because we're still pretty fresh, we're still trying things. Robin has now got an Imperial position, so like so you realized very quickly, didn't you? You were like, oh, I'm gonna go for this. And then like moments after you became Knight Protector, like people instantly started wanting to like just and you're like, whew, I'm tired. And then every 2 seconds someone was like, oh yeah, I need to speak to you about this, I need to speak to you about that, and we're like, oh, welcome to it.
I got 10 minutes into it and I was like, I need a designated note taker to follow me places now, because I can't keep all this knowledge in here.
Well, I thought that when you were saying about the NPC, like they only needing really to to, as long as you show up for the weekend. I'm like, man, that sounds less work than if you had a player hat.
Yeah, it was like when I went from being a general to being an NPC, it was like, oh, no one wants me to send them letters in between events. I don't need to. I don't need to go to player events and like beg senators to vote for me.
Yeah. So I think PD put a thing out before he won that they're not just looking for NPCs. Kind of, are they looking for? They're looking for just crew in general? Are they?
So they're looking for specific roles for quite a number of them, in part just because of how big the game's getting. I mean, the two biggest needs are always generally NPC crew and referees, just because those have got the most stringent requirements, and you don't really get to play the event, per se. So I know referees, they want some prior refereeing experience, ideally, and then I think there's I think the god crew, so the people behind the desks on the table, and I think they want some other sort of site crew in general. But yeah, I mean, again, just to reiterate what I was saying about having fun, I know people in the referee team and in the god team, and they both have to remind people. It's like, no, I do have fun at the event.
Yeah.
I'm not playing a character or whatever, but I still get to have fun helping people and being around and all of that. So don't worry about us having fun backstage, and and like I say, if people are interested, I think you can put the email address in, but have a look at whatever the crew information is, and it'll if you're not listening to this in May, it will change depending on needs at the time. Sometimes different teams are different people.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Hopefully it will keep growing, and there'll always be a need for more people in all areas. I'm assuming so. I mean, Matt was pretty humble when we spoke to him in December, and I'm pretty sure Matt said, "Oh yeah, I think we went up in numbers quite significantly because we had 2 years off from COVID, but and it won't be that won't be the case, I don't think." And I think he was, I think he was just being humble, because I think there was a post I think he put out right before the event being like, "Oh yeah, this is the biggest event we've ever had." He won, so it's probably
I don't know if it
right.
went up. I don't know if it went up as much as it had previously,
Well,
but yeah, it's still going up. So line go up.
Still going up, yeah. So yeah, hopefully there'll always be openings for crew and things like that. Is there anything else you want to say about the NPC side of things, or any other information you want to give out to people before we wrap up, Mike?
No, I don't think so. I mean, if I'm on the Empire Discord and things like that, so if anyone wants to reach out, ask any questions, happy to do so. I can't give you away any of my secrets. That's
ask Mike anyway. It'd be fun.
Yeah,
Make him sweat.
I'll just say no. But no, yeah, just say yeah. It's like I say, it's the most fun I've had LARPing. I love it. I love getting to think about the wider world and bringing the wider world to life to the people. Love the feedback and all the good stuff that people have, getting to see all the great stuff that the plot production and the costume people and the set dressers do backstage. Getting to see all of that.
Yeah.
Like I say, if you want, I love playing as well. So obviously, want people to have their fun playing. But if you're thinking about a bit of a different experience and are willing to take a year out, I highly recommend it.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like you really enjoy it. And I mean, I knew nothing about the plot crew before this, and now I'm just like, this actually sounds really exciting, that sort of being able to play those different roles and to just see a whole different side of the game. It sounds absolutely wonderful.
It's one of those games, Empire, isn't it? Because it's such a good game. It's like, like all the aspects of the crew do sound fun, but I also want to play. It's like that D&D game where you're like, I would love to run it, but I also want to play it. The ideal game to play is also sometimes the ideal game to run is also the ideal game to play. So it's difficult to make that choice. But I'm looking for. I'll definitely be seeing you around, Mike, in character, because I'm definitely going to be casting Challenge the Iron Duke at some point.
Looking to win of fortune for your old power Revel. It might not be me. There's other barriers now, but I'll be about. I'm getting that. I've just had getting that itch in the back of my head where it's like, I could go back to playing, but I think I've seen too much. I think I've seen too much behind the scenes. I've seen things that cannot be unseen, and so
I imagine
I will be on the other side of the hedge in perpetuity, I think.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Mike. It's been a pleasure learning about the NPC crew. Right, folks, should we say goodbye to the podcast? Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this show, give us a like, give us a follow. If you are interested in anything that we've talked about today, especially concerning the NPC role at Empire LARP, the emails that we discussed are in the video description. It is relevant as of 2023 currently, so do go check if you're interested. You can go and check out some of our other videos that we have done over here. Until the next time, though, we love you and stay safe.